Hey Critical Analysis, this is your video for week 10 of the semester. So we are already in the double digits, which hopefully means you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And yeah, we're just moving closer. So week 10 covers chapter 7. It's going to run from March 29th through April 4th. So we're going to click in here. You can see I've got the textbook behind me up and running. And so I've already uploaded, the vocabulary video will be in there. So as normal, you'll have to watch a vocabulary video right here for the vocabulary specific area. But then I'm going to rely on the PowerPoint for the lecture, and there's lots of there's a graphic organizer and there's some assignments. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the PowerPoint. And this is a long chapter, so I'm going to preface it by that. But it's not a difficult one. There's just a lot of detail, and so that's just kind of what I like my disclaimer for this chapter. So this chapter is a nursing chapter, which means the readings will be around nursing based. And so this chapter is going to talk about obviously issues in healthcare and nursing. And then the reading skill is what's called patterns of organization or text structures. Okay, so that's what we're going to kind of look at. So patterns of organization or text structures is the way that authors can coordinate or organize their writing in a way that makes it understandable to their reader. So they may spend their paragraph or their several paragraphs comparing and contrasting, or maybe they're going to spend it defining vocabulary. The point is they try to structure their writing in a way they think would be helpful to their reader, ultimately to aid in comprehension. And being able to pick this out is going to help your overall understanding of what you're reading. And then it also applies to your own writing as well. It's something you can kind of translate into your own writing. And so whenever we are talking about patterns of organization, you want to make sure that you are kind of doing those things we've talked about already. Make sure you know what the topic is. Make sure you can identify what the main idea is. Know those details. And then we're going to start talking about transition words and phrases, which we talked and introduced in the chapter on supporting details, and they come back into play very heavily in this chapter. So just paying attention to those features of all the things we talked about already will play a role in this chapter also. So again, patterns of organization or structures or rhetorical patterns, these are all synonyms for what this is talking about. It's just the way, again, that the authors or writers arrange the details in their sentence, paragraph, or maybe an article, so that we can understand what we are reading, and it can help us also recall the details. If we can oh yeah, they were listing or they were comparing and contrasting, it can help us recall the details. So real quickly, I'm going to ask that you memorize this for 30 seconds. Try to look at that 2 columns of numbers and memorize. That was probably a little less than 30 seconds. If you needed to pause it to look at it for a full 30 seconds, that's fine. But I want you to try to remember what the 2 columns were. If you need to jot it down and test yourself. If you need to pause it and try it. Okay, hopefully you've paused it in. You've tried writing down those 2 columns. You probably remember this column fairly easily. There's a pattern there. There's a very easily picked up structure, even numbers by 2s. Here, however, the second column, no discernible pattern. It goes from 1 to 5 to 13, so maybe odd numbers, but then they throw in 90. And then they're increasing, but then it decreases. There is no rhyme or reason. And so just like numbers, we like patterns. Our socials, our phone numbers, all of those things, they're chunked together, and it helps us remember more easily. So like numbers, whenever we can identify patterns in words, in sentences, it helps us remember. So again, finding patterns helps us understand and remember what we're reading, and it can just help in that overall comprehension. There are going to be 10 total, but I'm chunking them up into 4 and 6. So the first 4 patterns we're going to talk about are definition, listing, cause and effect, and compare and contrast. Again, when I say patterns, it's ways authors can organize their writing, and they're not limited to just one. They could use definition and cause and effect, or listing and compare contrast. But here's just the general meaning. How we know if an author is using a particular structure is we look at transition words. We look to see what kind of words or phrases are they using. Again, this was introduced to us back in the supporting details chapter. We look to see what words or phrases are they using to help us identify what structure. And that's what each of these slides will talk about, transition words that go with each structure. So they are used as a signal to help you see where those patterns are. First pattern, definition, and it's just what it sounds like. An author spends time defining a word. So, and this kind of maybe goes back to our vocabulary chapter as well. It may be in italics or bolded or underlined, and they could also put the definition in commas or parentheses or brackets. But if an author spends time defining a word, they are relying on definition pattern. So here are some examples. If I didn't know what hypertension meant, it is set off by commas. If I didn't know what legumes were, they're in brackets. So those are clues that authors are defining a word or phrase that might be unfamiliar. They may also use words, transitions, like is, means, defined as, known as. And again, this is probably like familiar because we talked about this in the definition chapter. So this just means authors can choose to organize their writing in a definition pattern. The next pattern is listing. Again, this is just what it sounds like. It is just a list of ideas in no particular order. So think about all the lists we make on a daily basis. To-do list, grocery list, that's the same thing. So here are some examples. I had to go to buy milk, bread, and eggs. Lists are often set aside by commas, or there's like a list of benefits to exercise: good health, strong and lean body, emotional well-being. If an author is using a list, well, first of all, if it literally is a list of things, or they may use words like first, another, also, last, to let you know that they are putting things in a list. And they don't have to be in any specific order. A list can be randomly, organized. Our next structure is cause and effect. And I like to think of it as the reasons and the results. So it's showing that relationship, A happens, so B happens. It's that relationship between events or situations. So here are some examples. Due to her poor physical condition, Maria wasn't able to climb the stairs. As a result of the poor economy, the ABC Box Company's profits decreased. Not getting enough sleep can have several negative effects. So how do we know if an author is trying to show cause and effect? Well, they may use words that indicate cause, because, due to, since, or they may use words that show effect, as a result, therefore, as an effect, or they may use a combination of both. So that's how an author is using cause and effect. They may say things like, I tripped on the stairs because my kids left a toy on the step. The cause in that sentence would be the toy was left on the step. The effect is I tripped down the stairs. And I used the word because to let you know I was showing a cause-effect relationship. So authors can spend their time organizing their writing by cause and effect. Authors can also compare and contrast, so to show how things are alike, to show how things are different, or both, how they're both alike and different. So when you compare, you're showing how things are similar. When you contrast, you're showing how they are different. Here are some examples. John has the same instructor for biology that I have for micro. The main difference between time order pattern and listing pattern is the details must be in a specific order. So how do I know if an author is comparing, contrasting? Well, oh, I'm sorry, that's really small. They may use words or phrases like similar, similar to, alike, same, both. If they're showing how things are different, they may say things like, however, on the other hand, instead, yet, but, or they might use a combination of those. So if I wanted to compare and contrast, two different historical figures, I might be able to say like this one, they were alike in this way, but they were different in this way, and here's the commonalities. I could also use a Venn diagram. A Venn diagram is commonly used in the situation where we're comparing and contrasting. Okay, so quick pause here. review these 4 before we go to the next. Definition pattern is when an author spends the time of their paragraph or longer, it could be several paragraphs, defining a word or phrase that's unfamiliar. And so they're going to use commas, dashes, parentheses, or words like is, means, defined as, known as, to let you know that they're defining a word. Listing is just what it sounds like. They're going to list items off in no particular order using commas and maybe words like first, next, last. Cause and effect is when they want to show a relationship between ideas. X happened, therefore Y is the result. So they're going to say things like because, as an effect, as a result, therefore, due to let you know that they're showing cause and effect. And then compare and contrast is when an author is taking 2 or more ideas, names, concepts, and showing how they're similar, how they're different, or maybe how they're a little bit of both. And they're going to say things like similarly, on the other hand, same, different, to let you know. All right, the next section, and if this is a lot, this would be a good time to go ahead and pause and then come back to this part of the video since I said this was a longer lecture. Here are the other patterns that we are going to discuss. Okay, so another reminder about transition words. They help us identify what structures are being used. Time order, also sometimes called chronological because it goes in order of time. So this answers the question of when. When did something happen? Your history books in school are set up in chronological order most of the time. They will cover a certain time period in time order. And so here are some examples. Before you remove the cap, make sure the engine is cool. I received a letter from the IRS after. The ABC Box Company has been in business since 1898. So those are all time order examples. How you know an author is using time order is they may say things like first, second, third, next, later. They may also use dates or years, March 1999, Saturday, to let you know that they're showing how something happened in time. Process pattern is answering the question how. How is something done? So I kind of like to think of this as like your science type classes. They're showing you life cycles and experiments to how to complete something. It uses these same transition words, first, second, next, later, also, after. But you have to kind of look and see, is something telling me how or is it telling me when? Like that's how you answer if it's process or time order. Here are some process pattern examples. To replace the ink cartridge in your printer, you must first remove the old one. After you've sanded the vehicle, next remove the old paint. So it's kind of walking you through. It's kind of like a manual is a process pattern, walking you through how to do something. Okay, keep moving here. Space order, I'm not talking about outer space, talking about like a physical location. Answers the question where. Where is something located? So it's going to tell you the details of where that is. So here are some examples. The office is next to the business office. You will find a flotation device under your seat. The fibers are parallel. So words like over, under, left, right, up, down, north, south, between, outside, inside, those are all spatial order because they're showing you where something is located. All right, stick with me. We're almost done. Classification is taking a really large topic and breaking it down into groups or categories that kind of show you how they work together. So an example of this might be like the government. It's a really large topic. If I wanted to break that down into categories, I could break it down into like local, state, national, or I could break it down into Republican, Democrat. So there's different ways, or legislative, executive, judicial. So I break it down into categories or kinds or types to let you know how those pieces work together. Here are some other examples. There are several types of volcanoes which fit into 4 categories. Different kinds of transitions help us see patterns. Blood types are classified into 4 groups. So as you can see, some transition words associated with this pattern are type, kinds, groups, categories, to let you know that they're classifying. All right. Almost there. Example pattern is just what it sounds like to show you an example of something, an illustration. So that's a synonym for an illustration to kind of give you an idea of what the author is talking about. So if I said several logos have become so popular that they identified the brand without words, for instance, the Golden Arches of McDonald's or the Apple of Apple computers. Amphibians such as turtles, snakes, or frogs can live in water or on land. So those are ways to let you know that if you didn't know what an amphibian was, here are some examples. So example transitions are things like such as, for example, to illustrate, for instance, to let you know that the author is giving an example. All right, our last pattern is addition. And again, it's just what it sounds like. It wants to add on the information to something that's already been discussed. So, I would like to major in art in addition, minor in media. My brother is an architect. He's also a president. Jose is the best student on campus. Furthermore, so adding on. So words or phrases like in addition, also, another, moreover, to let you know that the author is using that particular transition. Okay. So that is now your 10 patterns of organization. That's a lot of information. This is all in your textbook. It is in your text. It goes through all of these and it gives more details. What I've also done inside, if you're in chapter 7, week 10, I'm in the materials folder. There is a PDF right here, graphic organizer, patterns of organization, PDF, and it opens up. And what I've done is I've taken just kind of a visual, and here's our patterns of organization, and I have put all 10 structures. Now you'll see I combined time, process, and spatial because time, order, process, order, spatial, order. But what I did here is the 10 patterns are in black. What they mean, like their definition, is in blue. And some example signal words or phrases are in red because there are literally hundreds of those. But sometimes this is just helpful if you wanted to print this out just as a quick reference while we're going through this chapter. You are welcome to. But this just sometimes is nice to have like as a quick reference and just start getting familiar with what the structures mean as well as some example signal words and phrases that go along with them because it'll start to be a little bit more common like, oh, okay, I know if I see like however, or on the other hand, I'm comparing and contrasting. You'll start to recognize those and hopefully connect those to that particular structure. So that is there in the materials folder. All right. So for chapter 10, in the assignment folder, as always, you have a homework assignment that is attached to this concept, patterns of organization. So if you want to open that up, it's going to open up to this document here, and you can see that I have examples first. I have 3 examples where the first 2 are like a little paragraph, and I want you to just read through there. And what I've done is I found the structures that are listed in both, and then how did I know that was the structure? What signals identified? Example 1 says, there are many reasons I prefer summer to winter. First, warmer weather is more comfortable than the cold. Second, during the summer, we have more time to enjoy and soak in the sun versus in the winter. Third, there's more time to enjoy outdoor activities compared to in the winter. So I'm doing 2 things here that I can see. There's a list. I know that because it says first, second, and third. It's listing reasons because I know that from my main idea. It says there are many reasons and it lists the reasons. And then I'm comparing and contrasting. I know because I use the word than, versus, and the phrase compared to. So I also have an example where they're using classification and an example with cause and effect. So if you want to look at those are just kind of showing you how these are used in context. Now your actual homework then, you have a word bank, so to speak. It's a pattern bank. You're going to use each pattern 1 time, and you'll see that there are 10 sentences. All you're going to do is read each sentence, and then if you want, just maybe even put it in a different color so it sticks out. Put whatever pattern goes. If you think this one, we'll just do this one together. Whoops, I don't want to erase all that. Parents tend to treat the oldest child differently from his or her siblings. Unless the siblings are twins, then they tend to be treated quite similarly. Okay, well, to me, the words different and similar stick out, and they're talking about treating oldest child differently than siblings. They're using a lot of words that are showing me this is compare and contrast. So on your paper or, in your own mind, whatever, just cross out compare, contrast. You've already used it once, then the rest are up. So go through and read the rest of the sentences and determine which structure, which pattern is being used, because all of them have some kind of clue, signal, word, transition to let you know which pattern is being utilized. And this is just to give you some practice with that, and I'll give you feedback on that. When you're done, you'll submit that in the Dropbox. That is due Sunday. Okay. I've already talked about the Chapter 7 vocabulary quiz due Sunday because that is part of your vocabulary video in general. So make sure you submit that by Sunday as well. All right, let's talk about your text and skills sheet as well as your discussion board. So in our Chapter 7 folder, we are in life science, the topic of nursing. And so as usual, there's a little introduction to the field, and then underneath there are your questions that get you thinking, the preview questions. So for your Week 10 attendance, you are posting to the prompt, the average life expectancy of Americans has increased significantly due to the many advances in medical technology. How many years do you think the 21st century American citizen can live self-sufficiently in relatively good health? I don't expect anyone to be a medical expert. It is your opinion. Just make sure you kind of support it. Tell me why. Just something to start thinking and talking about as the readings all relate to that nursing field. So Week 10 discussion post by Wednesday the 31st for Week 10 attendance points, please. All right, so let's get back in here. We are going to pull up the text sheet. Here it is. All right, we're just going to work our way down here. It says, after reading, engaging patients in dialogue. So 345 to 348. So I'm going to go ahead here. Here is my reading. I'm going to click in here. Engaging patients in dialogue, a partnership. So I'm going to have you, again, like however you do this, pause the video, read through. This is also going to be the basis. You're going to have some vocabulary words in here also that you'll see in the vocabulary video itself. Read through, and then you are answering questions 4 and 7 under Part A. 4 and 7. So let's take a look. The main idea of the article is, so you want to make sure you read the article and come up with what you believe the main idea to be. And then number 7, the example of the physician using the acronym SOB, it's not what you think, within earshot of the patient is mentioned to support the point that what. So answer questions 4 and 7 based on that article right up here at the top under A. All right, after you get done with that, Part B, new approach addresses substance abuse among nurses is our next reading. So I'm going to go here. And this is actually in a weird spot. So this is pages 386, and you can see like it does this weird jump. So you have to actually click in here, and that opens up a whole bunch of other stuff in here. So here is the actual reading right here, reading 3. And this talks about substance abuse among the nursing population, which is an interesting concept. So go ahead and read again, pause the video, read the article, and then come back when you're ready. Okay. Whenever you are done reading, you are answering, as you can see here, answering questions 1, 2, 4, 6, 9. I'm going to do a couple with you now. All right. 1 you're going to do on your own because I want you to be able to tell me what the main idea of the article was. But we are going to do number 2 together. Experts say the key to tackling this thorny issue and protecting public safety is support and treatment, not punishment. Which one of these is kind of the pattern of organization? So protect public safety, support and treatment. To be able to tackle substance abuse, they are saying support and treatment is the way to go. So this is a cause and effect relationship. How do we help this issue? We give support and treatment. So cause and effect. So number 2 for this is C. Again, you're answering number 1 on your own. It's the main idea. Okay, if we scroll down here, let's go ahead and do number 4 together. They believe that ATD programs provide greater patient safety as they enable managers to remove nurses from the work environment quickly, unlike traditional disciplinary procedures that can take months, if not years. All right, so to me, this keyword right here, unlike, should throw a flag. That is a signal word to compare and contrast. They're showing comparison and contrasting here. So particularly contrast, showing unlike the other method. So number 4 is B. All right, you were also doing 6 and 9. So 6 is another, how is this kind of organized, thinking about your structure. So I'll have you practice number 6 and answer that one on your own. And the same with number 9. Read that selection from the piece and which pattern of organization do you believe it is focusing on. All right, that's part A and B. Let's go ahead down to part 2, Roman numeral 2. This makes us like backtrack a little bit. this one we're actually practicing a lot of these concepts associated with the patterns of organization. So you can see you're doing different passages on different pages. So let's go ahead and take a look. Page 359, passage 2. To get to these, I have to go back a little bit. Focus skill. All right, we're right around here. 359, passage 2. There we go. So what this wants you to do is in this paragraph, and I'll do the first one with you. Let's go ahead. One pitfall in communicating with a person from a different culture is ethnocentrism. Ethnocentrism means interpreting the beliefs and behavior of others in terms of one's own cultural values and traditions. It assumes that one's own culture is superior. It is difficult to avoid the tendency toward ethnocentrism. Nurses, though, must be extra diligent to avoid stereotypes, oversimplified conceptions, opinions, or beliefs about some aspects of a group of people. Individuals vary greatly within any ethnic group, just as children vary within one family. The nurse must look for ways to care for each client as a unique person, regardless of category. All right, in this paragraph, there were 2 vocabulary words. I'll do the first one with you. The first one was ethnocentrism. So you're going to put that word on the blank right here. Okay, and all my little lines go everywhere. And then it wants you to write the definition. Well, in our paragraph here, it says ethnocentrism means. It uses the keyword means. So the whole sentence behind that means is the definition. Interpreting the beliefs and behavior of others in terms of one's own cultural values and traditions. That's what you will type or write on the line where it says definition, these 2 spots. Then your job is, there's one more vocabulary term in here that is defined. There's a clue. It's not a means or means referred to as known as. It's a punctuation clue. So you're going to write the other term there, and what does that term mean according to the paragraph? Okay, all right. The rest of these, just make sure you kind of click through. I want you to really practice trying to identify how these patterns are used. So again, look at this one, page 362, passage 1. So we'll go back a little bit. 362, passage 1. There's that one, and it tells you right on the paper, you're answering questions 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so make sure you answer all 3 questions. Like you read, it's 3 paragraphs really, and you answer questions 1, 2, 3. Okay. Page 367, passage 2. Go here, passage 2, here we go. Here's the paragraph you read, and the question says, name one cause-effect relationship from the passage. You can see that there's a table there that you would normally fill out all of them, just one cause-effect relationship in this passage right here. Okay, that's for that one. And then you'll see 371, 374, 377, and it has the passages right beside it, and you're answering questions 1 and 2 for both. All right, and then the last one, this is actually not a TED Talk this time. So I know this is kind of veers away from what we normally do. This is a nurse's story, an excerpt. So we're going to go back here again. Okay, scroll down here. Reading number 5, a nurse's story. You're going to go ahead and read this article. Again, it's an excerpt. Vocabulary comes from this as well, as you'll see in the vocabulary video. And then you are answering the short answer questions, just like you normally do with the TED Talks, but you're answering questions 1 and 3. Question 1, it says, Beta tells us that Mary knows the old pain well and is beginning to understand the new pain. What do you think new pain means? And then question 3, why does Miss Barnacle turn pale when Mary tells her that she is paid $8.50 an hour? Be specific. So make sure you're answering those. Make sure you just support your responses. Okay, so that is the text sheet for Chapter 7. Lots of practice with these structures right in here, along with the homework, allowing you to have that extra practice. When you're done, as usual, make sure you submit it in the Dropbox. So as a quick recap, for for Chapter 7, Week 10, my goodness, you are submitting your vocabulary quiz, your text and skill sheet, and your practice homework page all by Sunday, April 4th. And then you want to make sure that you respond to your Week 10 discussion forum post by Wednesday the 31st for Week 10 attendance points. Please make sure to check out, I think I'm going to actually move it over, the vocabulary video. I'm going to move it over to near the quiz, I think, like I normally do. But check out the vocabulary video to help you understand the vocabulary, which will help obviously with your quiz. And then under content and mastery skills, there is a patterns or organization mastery module. So if you go in and scroll down a little bit, there it is, Patterns Organization MSA. So please make sure you check that out and be working on your skills. All right, if you have any questions or run into any issues with this week, let me know. Have a great week. Bye.